In 1882, the small Ozark settlement of Hollow Creek lay quiet beneath towering pine ridges. Folks lived hard lives shaped by coal smoke, river mud, and secrets whispered on porches after sundown. Every town had someone they watched through narrowed eyes. For Ozark Hollow, that person was Elias Granger. Elias ran the only butcher shop for miles. The sign above his door, weather-beaten and creaking, read simply, Granger's Meats. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and spoke rarely. His beard always looked days past neat, and his eyes held a sadness that drove others back a step. People kept their distance. They whispered a rumor more chilling than winter wind. He hangs more than meat in that shop. No one could say what that meant exactly, yet everyone repeated it. Children hurried past the alley behind his store. Women clutched their aprons tighter when he passed. Men tipped their hats without meeting his gaze. Elias noticed it all. He simply continued sharpening his knives, as though he deserved the judgment. Perhaps he believed he did. Every Friday before sunrise, Elias made his solitary trip to collect livestock from nearby farms. He hauled carcasses back on his mule-drawn cart, covered by burlap and silence. Neighbors swore they heard chains clinking late at night from the rafters inside his shop. The lantern light would flicker through the windows far past closing hours. It fed the tale that Elias was doing something unnatural in there. Despite his isolation, he ran an honest trade. Families depended on his cuts to survive the harsh winters. Yet no thank you ever reached his ears. People paid quickly and left quicker, except one. A little girl with mismatched braids always lingered near the counter. Lily Hartwell, age 12, came most days with a small coin purse and a bigger smile. She belonged to the Hartwell family, known for their warmth and their generosity in a town where coldness was cheaper. Her mother died years ago. Her father, Samuel Hartwell, served as the town constable, respected and steady, though worn by grief. Lily often chatted while Elias wrapped her meat order. She talked about school, stray cats, and how much she loved peach pie. At first, Elias answered with simple nods. Over time, a low, hesitant voice began to form words. "You like pie?" "Oh, yes. My mama used to make it, and one day I will too." Her joy chipped away at Elias's silence like a pickaxe striking stone. The more she visited, the more alive he seemed. Suspicion has a way of boiling over when fed long enough. The town council gathered at the church one chilly evening, lamplight casting judgmental shadows on every face. Mr. Carpenter, the mill owner, slammed his fist on a pew. "That butcher is hiding something foul, mark my words." Murmurs rose like a hive disturbed. Only Samuel Hartwell stood to speak in defense. "He has harmed no one. Leave the man alone unless there is proof worth acting on." His words held authority, but the people's fear outweighed reason. They wanted a villain to point to, someone to blame for the unease that settled on them like thick fog. Eyes narrowed, trust thinned. By the end of the meeting, a decision formed unspoken. They would watch Elias Granger, night and day. One stormy evening, Lily saw Elias locking up his shop. Instead of turning toward his boarding room, he lit a lantern and disappeared into the woods behind Hollow Creek. Curiosity ruled her heart far more than caution. She followed quietly, steps dampened by fallen pine needles. Elias walked slower than usual, shoulders slumped as though bearing an invisible burden. He reached a clearing where crude wooden crosses stood in uneven rows. A graveyard. Lily stayed hidden, breath held. Elias knelt before a fresh mound of earth. He placed a small bouquet of hand-picked wildflowers upon it. Her eyes widened. Why did he, the feared butcher, visit graves in the dead of night? She returned home trembling, unsure whether to tell her father. She chose silence, for the moment. The following Sunday morning, Elias arrived at his shop to find the front window smashed. A jagged stone lay inside among shards of glass. Around it, painted mockingly in red, were the words, "Devil Meat." He stared without surprise, merely picking up the rock and placing it aside. No anger showed, only resignation. He swept the glass, boarded the window, and unlocked his door as usual. Business continued. People pretended they had not done it. Shame was buried beneath gossip and hollow laughter. Lily noticed the wound in the window when she arrived. Her face reddened with anger. They had no right. "It is nothing, child," Elias responded. Something in his voice sounded deeply tired. The real story behind Elias Granger lingered only in the minds of those who survived the brutal echo of the Civil War. He had been a Union Army medic, tending to soldiers beyond saving. He saw more death than any man should endure, many of them boys younger than Lily. One name haunted him most. His little brother Jeremiah had enlisted without permission and died in Elias's arms. Elias had promised their widowed mother he would protect Jeremiah. He failed. After the war, she could not bear the sight of him. His sorrow drove him away from home. He learned butchery, a trade that gave him routine, though no peace. The people of Ozark Hollow looked at his knives and saw danger. He looked at them and saw the past. Lily's behavior had changed. She grew silent during supper, lost in thought, often staring out the window toward Granger's shop. Samuel, sharp to shifts in others, noticed. "Lily, are you all right?" She hesitated before speaking. "Papa, Mr. Granger is not bad. People say awful things, but he is kind to me." Samuel sighed deeply. Not everyone feared is dangerous. Not everyone liked is good. He set his fork down, expression softening. "Still, promise me you will not follow him anywhere at night again." Her head shot up. "How did you know?" "Because you are my daughter." He smiled gently, though worry flickered in his eyes. He knew tension was rising, and fear makes fools of entire towns. One afternoon, shouts shook the lazy peace of Hollow Creek. A young boy had fallen into the river while fishing alone. The current swept him downstream, thrashing him against rocks. People ran toward the waterbank, screaming uselessly, frozen by panic. Elias Granger did not freeze. He bolted from his shop and plunged into the frigid river. His arms cut through water with strength born from years lifting beasts twice his weight. He reached the boy, pulling him free just as the current threatened to drag them both into deeper waters. Once ashore, Elias checked the boy's breathing, pressing his ear to his chest with practiced precision. "Breathe," he whispered. The boy sputtered, water streaming from his mouth. His mother collapsed in relief. The crowd watched Elias as if unsure how to process what they had just witnessed. He saved a life. The few who thanked him did so stiffly. Suspicion had loitered so long that truth felt unfamiliar. Elias returned to his shop dripping, head bowed. He hung his soaked apron beside the others and resumed work, as though nothing heroic had occurred. Later that same evening, Samuel Hartwell approached the butcher shop. He knocked once, firmly. Elias opened the door, startled. "Constable," he greeted. Samuel entered slowly, surveying the dim interior lined with hooks and cleavers. The air smelled of smoke, iron, and salt. A lantern flickered near the back, where a heavy curtain concealed part of the room. The constable's gaze lingered on that curtain, tension coiling. "Elias," he began in a steady tone, "this town is uneasy. They think there is more than meat hanging in here." Elias's eyes darkened with a lifetime of weariness. "There is." Samuel's hand twitched toward his holster. Elias raised both palms gently. "Not what you fear. Let me show you." With slow, deliberate steps, he led the constable to the curtained area and drew the fabric aside. Inside hung dozens of small wooden crosses, each carved by hand. Names burned into them. Not names from the town. Names of soldiers. Men Elias could not save. The lantern light illuminated row after row of memorials crafted in solitude. Samuel exhaled, realizing the weight of those chains and whispers. Elias did hang more than meat. He hung memories. He hung guilt. He hung love. And he hung the ghosts of a war that refused to leave him. Constable Hartwell left the butcher shop that night with a new understanding of the man the town feared. However, others had seen him enter and curiosity spread like wildfire. Before sunrise, rumors twisted the truth. Samuel found something awful in that shop. He saw chains, blood, human remains. He is covering for the butcher. By midday, a crowd gathered outside Granger's meats, shouting and spitting accusations. Elias remained silent behind the locked door, staring at the wood that shuddered each time a fist struck it. Inside, his heartbeat echoed the pounding outside. His past, his grief, his quiet honor. None of it mattered against the mob's ignorance. He feared not for himself. He feared that his memorials to lost soldiers would be destroyed. Lily pushed her way through the angry bodies. "Stop it!" she yelled, tears streaming. "Mr. Granger is good." Laughter and mocking rose against her defense. "What does a child know?" a woman scoffed. "That man needs to leave Hollow Creek before something terrible happens." Samuel arrived moments later, firm and commanding. "This ends now. Go home, every one of you." Under his unwavering glare, the crowd slowly dispersed, muttering threats beneath their breath. Lily rushed inside the shop as Elias finally opened the door. "I am so sorry," she sobbed. Elias placed a shaky hand on her shoulder, voice almost a whisper. "It is not your fault that fear blinds them." The fragile bond between a lonely butcher and a brave girl strengthened further. Later that evening, Samuel returned, holding a sealed envelope. "It arrived on the last mail coach," he explained, "addressed to you." Elias accepted it cautiously. The envelope bore his childhood home's handwriting. With trembling fingers, he opened it. His mother's words spilled across the page. "I was wrong to blame you. Jeremiah chose his path, and you stayed by his side. I am proud of you. Come home if your heart allows. I need you." Elias's chest tightened. Tears gathered, but he wiped them quickly. He had learned long ago that tears in public only fueled cruelty. "Will you go back?" Samuel asked. Elias stared at the memorial crosses behind them. "I have responsibilities here." Samuel's confusion grew, but compassion held his tongue. The next morning brought new trouble. Several fresh carcasses hanging in Elias's smokehouse had gone missing. The ropes that held them hung loose, sliced clean through. Word spread immediately. "He is killing at night. He is hiding the bodies now. He must be stopped." Samuel investigated, but no prints, tracks, or clues remained. The only certainty was that someone wanted Elias ruined. The butcher's reputation now hung by a thread as thin as butcher's twine. At dusk, chaos struck again. Lily Hartwell vanished. Samuel tore through streets and woods, voice hoarse from shouting her name. Villagers scrambled with lanterns, calling frantically. Rumor transformed into certainty faster than truth could breathe. The butcher took her. Men grabbed rifles. Torches were lit. The mob marched toward Granger's shop, rage darkening every face. Elias heard them coming. He stood still, chest rising and falling like a man preparing for the inevitable. He would not fight them. He had lived long enough with guilt to know punishment well. Yet one thought tortured him. Lily. Where was she? A scream cut through the tree line behind the butcher shop. Samuel recognized the voice instantly. Lily! The mob stopped, startled. Samuel sprinted toward the sound before anyone could react. He found a trail of footprints and broken brambles leading into the woods. Elias followed closely behind, despite the guns pointed at him. Soon the group reached a shallow ravine where Lily lay terrified, trapped under a fallen tree branch. She had scraped her knees and torn her dress trying to chase after a stray kitten. Worse than her injuries was the movement nearby. A wild boar charged, tusks lowered, hunger and fear driving it mad. Elias acted without thought. Elias seized a heavy limb from the ground and rushed forward. The boar met him with a vicious clash, knocking him to the dirt. Its tusk slashed across his ribs, and blood soaked his shirt instantly. Yet he stood again. He struck the boar once, twice, forcing it back. The beast bucked and squealed before fleeing into the night. Silence followed. Elias fell to his knees, clutching his side, blood streaming through his fingers. Samuel hurried to Lily, lifting her gently. She reached toward Elias, sobbing, "You saved me." The butcher smiled weakly through gritted teeth. "You are worth saving." His body swayed, collapsing into the constable's arms. At that moment, everyone in the mob saw the truth they had refused to acknowledge. The monster was the hero. Elias awoke hours later in Samuel's home, bandaged carefully. Lily sat beside him, holding his calloused hand. The villagers gathered outside, not with rage, but remorse. They brought apologies, food, and uneasy promises to change. Elias accepted none of the gifts. Forgiveness weighed heavier than judgment. Instead, he requested one thing: "Come to my shop." He led them to the hidden room behind the curtain. This time, they saw what Samuel saw. Each cross represented a name the world had forgotten, honoring men who died bravely, far from home. Elias turned to the villagers with a voice cracked by years of silence. "I could not save them, so I hang their memory in the only way I know, to keep them from disappearing." The room fell silent. Many wept, ashamed of how cruelly they had treated the man who cared so deeply. Days passed, and healing spread slowly through Hollow Creek. The broken window was replaced by the townsfolk. Fresh flowers appeared on the butcher counter each morning, tokens of respect. Children no longer ran past the shop. They waved. Some even helped with chores. Men offered to repair tools and assist with livestock deliveries. Samuel arrived often, not to question Elias, but to share coffee and conversation. For the first time since the war, Elias felt the faint warmth of belonging. Yet one final decision waited in his heart. Would he return to his mother as she asked? Lily pleaded with her eyes before her voice spoke. "You belong here too." A gentle truth settled inside Elias, steady and clear. He did not have to choose one home. He already had two. Years later, people still spoke of that night in Ozark Hollow, when fear finally lost to truth. Granger's meats continued to feed the community, but more importantly, it fed their gratitude. Elias built a small memorial garden beside his shop. The wooden crosses stood beneath blooming dogwoods, lanterns illuminating names that would never fade from memory. On quiet evenings, Lily would visit, now older and wise beyond her youth. Together they lit a lantern for each life honored. Lily once asked, "Why keep honoring them after so long?" Elias answered softly, eyes reflecting the lantern light. "Because every life matters, even when the world tries its best to forget." The butcher, who once hung more than meat, now hung hope, remembrance, and love. Those who once feared him now trusted him. Those who once scorned him now thanked him. Ozark Hollow learned the lesson it nearly lost. Judge not by shadows heard in whispers, but by light shown through deeds. Elias Granger's story became one parents told their children, reminding them that heroes do not always look like saints. Sometimes they look like a quiet butcher who simply refuses to let the loss be forgotten.